Welcome to the UBC TALKS webinar about plastic plans for a sustainable future. It's 10:30 in Turku, and this probably means that it's time to begin. My name is Maria Andreeva. I'm the communications coordinator in the Union of the Baltic Cities Sustainable Cities Commission, and I will be your host for today, together with my colleague, Atham Maharamli. Today, we're talking about one of the most overwhelming challenges, quite literally littering cities, the plastic pollution. And it's not only a problem for the city landscape. Once the plastic starts to degrade into the microplastic, the challenge spills over into the Baltic Sea also. So how to solve it? We will be discussing today how to address the plastic pollution with the fantastic crew of the project BALTIPLAST, focused on single-use plastic reduction. So I will start first with the small, introduction from us to provide you a bit of a context of why we have gathered here today. You are currently at the webinar organized by the Union of the Baltic Cities Network. It's the leading network of cities in the Baltic Sea region, focused on supporting the exchange among the member cities and working together, supporting smart, sustainable, and safe development in the cities. And this network was created in 1991, and today it consists of around 70 member cities. And the network works through 8 thematic commissions, looking into different topics of the city development, safety, culture, education, and other core topics of the city life. And of course, one of the themes is urban development and urban environment. And our commission focuses on environmental sustainability, and our secretariat is hosted here in the city of Turku in Finland. And what our secretariat of the Sustainable Cities Commission aims to do is to create different platforms for cities to exchange and connect. And we have also a lot of experience in policy advocacy, in consulting cities, and also in international projects as one of the tools for cities to reach their concrete goals. And we today talk about plastic pollution. So we have in the Union of the Baltic Cities Network a vision, UBC Sustainability Action Program 2030, which includes core topics of the sustainability that we think are very important to take into account by our member cities. And plastic falls into one of the 5 core topic categories, resource efficient cities. So through this discussion, we also aim to look more into how to support cities in reaching this status, being resource-efficient cities. And you are here at the UBC TALKS webinar format. So this is one of the concrete platforms that we created a couple of years ago. And nowadays it's a regular webinar series happening 4 times a year, not a day. We gather local experts to discuss current sustainability topics, to bring latest trends and knowledge into the discussion among the cities. And this is actually 20th webinar of the series, so a bit of a celebration today. And you can also find the recordings of the previously discussed sustainability topics on our website. You can find the link, of course, on the slide, or just find it on the website. And I also recommend following us on social media of your choice to get notified of when the next webinar is coming up. And to the topic of the day, so how to incorporate sustainable plastic management into the city's strategies and action plans is the wide theme that we are looking into today. We will have different approaches to this topic brought by the wonderful change makers of the city administrations, all united in the project BALTIPLAST, about which we will hear in a moment. So we'll start with a presentation of the project and how it will address this wide range of target groups. We target in this project municipalities, but also businesses and households through different sets of actions. And then we will go into the presentations of 3 front-running cities, Västerås, Helsinki, and Tallinn, with their examples, experiences, and maybe some hints on how to prepare strategies and how to implement local actions. This webinar will culminate in a discussion where all our panelists will be able to provide advice for other cities willing to take up the steps towards plastic pollution reduction. And as participants of this webinar, you're most welcome to prepare questions to our speakers, and please submit them to the Q&A box. You can find it in the Zoom facilities. We'll be taking the questions after the speakers' presentations, if time allows, or address them during the panel discussion. So now let's go straight into the program, and our first presentation will be from Andrea Dobri from Hamburg University of Applied Sciences, and she will tell us exactly how what is BALTIPLAST project and how it will help our region. Please, Andrea.
Thank you, Maria, for the kind introduction. I am going to share my slides now. Yes, you should be able to see my screen now. I'm switching to presentation mode. Everything is fine. Okay, welcome everybody from my side as well to our webinar. My name is Andrea Dobri and I'm representing Hamburg University of Applied Sciences. And today I am here to tell you about the topic of the BALTIPLAST project and what are our aims in this project. Before I jump to my presentation, I would like to give you a bit of a context also in this project, specifically what we are working with. In the BALTIPLAST project, we are focusing on plastic pollution, and we are analyzing the situation in the Baltic Sea region. Now, plastic is a very widely used materials, and this is due to its very diverse and various characteristics. So it can be durable, lightweight, it can be soft or hard, waterproof, and the list goes on. And these characteristics can also be adjusted a bit based on the additives that we are using in the production process. So it's clear that due to this variety of characteristics, plastic delivers numerous benefits to the society. It allows us to feed the world in a safe and sustainable manner. It enables us to build more energy efficient building and housing. However, there is a reverse side of the coin, and all these benefits come with a cost as well. It's also important to mention that plastic is a very wide term. And in this project, we are specifically focusing on the so-called single-use plastics. So those items which complete only one loop of usage before they are disposed of. And this is of particular interest for us because due to some facts and figures, it's clear that almost half of the produced plastics are designed for single-use purposes. I would also like to give you a bit of background, what led to the creation of this project, what was our motivation to engage in such a project. When we look at the end-of-life scenarios of plastic items, we can see that approximately 1/3 is recycled. Oftentimes, our listeners or participants in different activities are shocked by this number. They are expecting it to be much higher. Over 40% is sent to energy recovery, and almost 1/4 is still landfilled. So you can see that there is still room for improvement, especially when it comes to the amount of landfill plastics. We should work on reducing this number as much as possible. But how does actually plastic reach the environment? There are several ways. One of the most important part is littering. And also other contributing factors can be improper manufacturing processes leading to spillage or pollution of the air, for example. And it's important to mention improper handling and management of waste. Now, these plastic items, once in the environment, they can be carried by major rivers and they flow into our lakes, seas and oceans, accumulating there and leading to further pollution and causing further issues. Looking at the global plastic production distribution, we can see that Europe is actually on the 4th position, accounting for 50% of the global plastic production. In mass amount, this means approximately 55 million tons plastic produced each year. And as you could see from my previous slides already, our waste management systems are not still not bulletproof. So part of this plastic can still leak into the environment. Current reports estimate that human activities leak around 12 million tons of plastic into waterways each year. And it's also very interesting to see that it's estimated that approximately 70% of marine litter is constituted by popular single-use plastic items such as straws, plastic bags, plastic bottles, and also abandoned and lost fishing gear. So against this background and with this information in our heads and in our hearts, we created the BALTIPLAST project. As you can see on our little map on the left-hand side, we have almost all countries of the Baltic Sea region on board. And we are very happy and proud to have a diverse consortium in this project. So we can take the expertise from universities, local municipalities, partner NGOs, and also associated organizations, and develop a complex solution to the issue of plastic waste. This project was co-funded by the Interreg BSR and helps driving the transition towards a greener and more resilient Baltic Sea. It is a 3-year-long project. We are currently finalizing our first year, and we will keep working together with all our partners in the upcoming 2 years to tackle this complex issue. Already from the first discussions that we had at the project level, it became clear that on one hand side, we need measures to reduce the consumption of plastics in municipalities and households as well. And on the other hand side, we need better management solutions for the amount of waste which is deriving from the plastic that we are using. So in this project, our mission is prevention and reduction of single-use plastics. And also we focus on improvement in plastic packaging collection, and we embrace innovation when it comes to waste management and municipality level. As I mentioned, we are trying to apply system thinking to tackle this problem. So we are looking at the plastic waste issue from 3 different angles, from strategic and management. So what can municipalities do and local, regional level to tackle this issue? We also focus on communication and behavior change of consumers. So what is the responsibility of each of us in this issue and what we can personally do to combat plastic pollution. And last but not least, we also focus on the technical aspects of waste management. Plastic pollution being such a complex topic, there is no one-fit-all solution. So this is why we are actually creating 4 different solutions to cover the issue of plastic pollution in the Baltic Sea region. I will just quickly go through all the different types of solutions that we are developing and explain a bit what each of them means. So we have strategic solutions, which is the topic of today's session. Also, we have soft solutions, the so-called low-hanging fruits, which are low investment, low effort solutions targeting businesses, schools, and municipalities in our partner countries. In this particular category, we developed a plastic inventory tool, and this tool is helping our users to identify the biggest stream of plastic, and then we are giving them alternatives and suggestions how they could reduce the location from where this bigger stream is coming from. Then we have the technical and technological solutions, where we are working together with universities and waste management facilities across the Baltic Sea region. And we are helping them tackle their own issues, may it be increased sorting or increased recycling, creation of added value products. And finally, we also focus on household. We are developing a BALTIPLAST diet for households. So this is a set of actions targeting the needs and the capacities of households. So what they can do to avoid the use of single-use plastics. Since today's session is dedicated to strategic solutions in the BALTIPLAST project, I will just quickly give an overview of what are our plans to implement strategic solutions in the project. Then I am going to give the floor to our experts to dive into the details. So when it comes to developing strategic solutions in the projects, the first step was to look at the best practices across the consortium. And then we are trying to transfer those best practices and bring it to other municipalities as well, of course, with certain adaptations if needed. Also, we developed the strategic framework pyramid, what you can see on the right-hand side. And in this pyramid, we have at the top strategies and action plans in each municipality. Then the middle section is dedicated for legal frame, so all these rules and regulations in municipalities. And at the bottom are the guidance documents. In the project, we will try to develop a stepwise guide how municipalities could develop such strategic documents. The first step in this process would be to review the existing strategic document to identify to which extent plastic waste issues are addressed and which are the gaps that still should be further improved and filled. The next step would be to collect information, and here we mean to identify what are the problems regarding plastic pollution in their municipalities, what are the bottlenecks which should be overcome, and what are their needs. And also here, each municipality is asked to assess what is the situation of plastic consumption at their local level. Do they rely mostly on single-use plastic, or are they already embracing reusable items as well? What is the situation when it comes to waste management, including collection, sorting, and recycling? And also one important aspect is the awareness and engagement of stakeholders. The next step in our guide would be to prioritize the problems and needs. So each municipality is asked to identify what is the biggest challenge that they would like to overcome when developing this strategic document. And with this information at hand, and also using the best practices that we could identify in the consortium so far, our partners can develop a new strategy or improve the one already in place. This would be, in a nutshell, a very short introduction to the project and also what we would like to do in the strategic solutions. And I would like to give the floor now to our experts to further dive into details.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Very lovely presentation. And for cities listening to us today, there will be a range of solutions coming up in the next years within this project. So, well, we ourselves, Sustainable Cities Commission, are a partner in BALTIPLAST, and we coordinate the transfer activities. Of course, we will be sharing all possible information with you about the solutions coming up. And I actually think we have the first deliverable coming up actually quite soon. Is it best practices collection? Maybe, Andrea, you have some secret knowledge on when to expect it.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you, Maria, for the question. We did a benchmarking within our consortium of best practices on all solutions, so not just strategic, also soft and technical as well. We are currently drafting extracting the data and processing it, drafting our deliverable, and it will be ready probably at the beginning of next year already.
Thank you very much. Well, we'll definitely share it with everyone here. All right, thank you, Andrea. And indeed, let's go to our experts. And we have quite a Nordic collection of experts today. And we start from Sweden, from Västerås, with Olof Bergold, sustainability strategist at the municipality, who will tell us about their strategy for sustainable use of plastic and how they already launched it and how it's working. Please, Olof, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning, at least in Sweden, from a very snowy Sweden. It's cold and the snow is pouring down. And thank you for that introduction. My name is Olof Bergold. I have the bureaucratic title environmental strategist. I'm a civil servant and I'm located in the mayor's office, and I'm one of those who owns a lot of action plans, policies, and all of that in the municipality. Next slide, please. Västerås is located in Sweden, fairly close to Stockholm, 10 kilometers away by the lake Mälaren. Next. And one of those slides that's produced from our communicators. We are the 6th largest city in Sweden. We have a population about 160,000 people. We have a lot of engineering companies. ABB, especially ASEA, was founded in Västerås. We also have H&M and ICA Alstom. Northvolt has their R&D department in the city, as well as Hitachi. So we are quite an engineering city, and therefore we also like actions plans and solutions like that. Next, please. If we look at the municipality, the organization, we are around roughly 11,000 employees and a lot of managers divided in different companies. We also own our own waste management company and our power plants fully, which is quite nice when you work as an environmental strategist and you work with plastic questions. You can continue. We have a plastic action plan, plastic reduction action plan in the city. And I thought I would take a short ride on how we got there and what's included in it. But in 2020, I got an assignment from the politics to conduct a plastic diet in the city of Västerås, and that included mostly an internal perspective, but I also tried to work with the geographical area as well. It was quite a small assignment, actually. There was some politicians that read that plastic is a problem and wanted to do something. So we started a plastic diet. And we did that. It was mostly symbolic actions like taking away the plastic cup by the water fountains and in the toilets, reduce the wrappings of the sandwiches when we have public meetings and that kind of actions. And of course, we also tried to use this as to increase the knowledge, both for our politicians and also for all the managers that were involved with this. So it was a really it was a communication campaign, more or less, where we try to increase knowledge as well and do more symbolic actions. Next. We did this for almost a year, and we realized also my plastic knowledge increased, and we saw how much plastic we actually use in the municipality in a range in very different sectors. So we thought that we needed to take a bigger grasp around this and work in a more long-term way with this question. So we asked for assignment to actually create an action plan for the municipality. And we did that in 21, and we used 21 to make a draft, and we had a referral round conducted in 2022, where we all asked all the boards in the city to what their position was about our draft. And then we had an election in Sweden in 2022. And during an election, the political statements can be, it's hard to get decisions sometimes. Next. But after the election, we got it adopted by the city council, and every party actually stood behind this action plan. Next. And the purpose was to create a clear governance and common priorities for sustainable plastic use in the municipality, and for the politicians to actually show the organization that plastic is an important question that we all need to work with, and it's all over the organization and the regional geographical area as well. Next. And we needed to start to actually convince everyone that not all the plastic is necessary. And it's also, we have worked a lot with chemicals in the city before. And plastic is usually a big carrier of harmful substances as well. So when we talk about plastic, we don't talk about unnecessary plastic. We also talk about plastic with harmful substances, because it's such a big carrier of this, of many substances. And we didn't have the knowledge in the organization to actually assess what we bought many times. Approximately our action plan is, I think it's around 200,000 euro to implement it during this year. You can take it next. During the plastic diet campaign, I use this, and I still use this picture a lot, because it's hard sometimes to motivate people to work with plastic questions and actually make it personal. A few years ago, WWF had a report that they said that we eat around 5 grams of plastic every week, every person. It's equivalent to one plastic or one ATM card a week. And when people started to realize that they actually eat one plastic card a week, it got personal. Of course, the most of that plastic isn't absorbed by the body, it's just passing through, but it's still a statement that plastic is so common in the society that we actually all gets affected. And I think this was one of the key slides to get the politicians and management level in the municipality to actually start working with it. Next. The action plan itself, it's a quite traditional action plan. It's mainly 3 focus areas. It's the first one is how to reduce the inflow of bad plastic, unnecessary plastic, and actually to get control over how much plastic we buy in our municipality. In Sweden, we have a rather big amount of public procurement. The city of Västerås has a turnover about 1.5 billion euros. Approximately half of this amount is public purchase. So of course, if you added GPP on those amounts, there's a lot of volume in that. And then we need to increase knowledge in our procurement departments and all that in the whole organization, of course. And then we have we also look at the recycling and sorting system, both within our own organization, but also as the geographical area as well. This include actually quite small things, like make it easy for all our employees to sort out the waste, plastic waste, and just not throw it in the same bin, but also educate our inhabitants that the better they sort, the better we can collect the waste and actually recycle it. And then there is the increase of knowledge, the knowledge part. That's always part of an action plan. You need to both educate and include people to actually get the results in these questions. Next. We also tried to make it easy for people to work with, to start working with plastic. Plastic, it's quite a complex area, and if you want to work with plastic in complex products, you need a lot more than a few guides. But if when we work within the organization, we also try to make it easy to start. So we made guides for different departments, depending on where our employees work. There's a lot of different to work with healthcare compared to working in school, and it's different plastic materials and products that's used. So we try to use guides where we come from the departments, and we try to make all the departments involved when we write these guides. The action plan has been in place for, is it 8, 9, 10 months now, and there's a big increase in the demand for these guides, where people actually call us and want the guide, want our help to implement all of these guides. So I think we're on the right track, and we try to work as broad as possible in the whole municipality. And then, of course, we have added employees that are chemical experts that actually can work with the more complex parts of the plastic society as well, so we can go both deep and wide. Thanks to the BALTIPLAST project, our plastic action plan is translated to English. We are happy to share it. If you want it, just contact Maria or Adam, so they can help us distribute it if you want it. And I think my next slide is my last. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olof. This is truly an inspiring example, I'm sure, for many cities. I'm also sure that we will keep discussing this at the discussion at the end of this webinar, but I will still ask one question now. So indeed, plastic, as many sustainable challenges, is very complex and it requires holistic approach. And you mentioned that you already involve colleagues with the chemical backgrounds into the work, and you work on the guides together with other departments. Maybe you have some best practices. How do you make different departments collaborate? How do you manage to ensure the cross-sectoral approach within the municipality to develop a holistic strategy?
There's so many answers to that. It's a complex question. But of course, you need to find the right people, put them in the right departments. So they are close to to where they actually are going to work with the question. For example, most of the plastics people who works most with the plastic is placed at the educational department, where we have a lot of buildings. There's both introducing plastic question to the children and the teachers, but the educational department also owns all the schools, so we can work with the buildings itself and the building process with plastic as well. So I think it's you need to find out where have you the most impact in the organization and start there, and then, as always, include people, ask them.
Definitely best practice. Thank you so much. It's really, really helpful, I'm sure. Thank you. And let's then move to our next speaker. And now we move to Finland, to Helsinki, with Rasmus Boman, who will introduce us the local Helsinki approach to plastic pollution. And I believe the presentation is called Curing the Disease or the Symptom. So let's find out the answer. Please, Rasmus, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Maria. Let's see. Can you see it in the display or the?
Yes, it works perfectly.
Great. So my name is Rasmus. I come from the city of Helsinki. I am the lone wolf here at the city of Helsinki. I basically plan and execute and organize all the measures here in the BALTIPLAST project on the city of Helsinki, obviously taking people part also into the actions, but it's just me officially. As a background, people in Finland are very active in the societal discussion. I think it's mainly because it's written discussion, so there's no need to actually talk. But here are some opinions from Helsingin Sanomat, which is our biggest newspaper. These are from last July alone. So we should stop littering. We have to renew the trash cans. We have to stop the dirtiness of Helsinki. We need more greenness, etc. List goes on, and we can track the seasons depending whether it's the dog poop coming out of the snow or the May Day celebrations or the summertime madness with trash everywhere. So altogether, we have around 658,864 opinions here in Helsinki. This data is from 2002 December, but the problem is there. So City of Helsinki wanted to acknowledge this issue and I would say take ownership of it and also send a message that we're taking it seriously. So a few years back, they started to draft a litter control action plan with different measures. It has altogether 17 measures, but I'm going to go through just the top projects. Those who are interested, this is downloadable in Google. Just Google the litter control action plan Helsinki and you'll find it in English. And the link to BALTIPLAST project is that this will be updated for 2026. And even though 70 to 90% of the trash on the streets are plastic, it's not specifically addressed in this current action plan. So hopefully we'll get some lessons learned and best practices during the BALTIPLAST project, and we can put some plastic-oriented issues there as well. So, which leads to my first argument that we should treat plastic as the litter issue. We're expecting if the current trend continues, we're going to see a tripling amount of plastic production globally during the next 30 years. And if nothing is being done, we can expect that the mismanaged waste and landfill waste is going to increase as well. So there's definitely a need to address this issue in litter terms. And a quick glance what we're doing at Helsinki at the moment. This was a strategic approach. Obviously, there are different actors and a lot of stakeholders. So the first top project was to create an efficient network for sharing information. and to talk together basically, because they are in different departments, so there's a lot of lack of communication and overlaps also. The second one is, well, it's meant for citizens, kind of a nudging campaign. This is still top secret, super effective, coming next May, so I can't really talk much about it, but the planning is ongoing at the moment. We're going to launch it around May Day next year, so keep your eyes open. The next part is about new innovations in cooperation with universities of applied sciences, and the 4 and 5 mapping of the litter-prone areas and citizen involvement. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into those. I'm not going to go through the next 12, but please, if you're interested, feel free to download it and scan through the document itself. But always, if you talk about strategic documents and measures, for me, it's super important to have some kind of measure of the impact, because spending money is very easy, but defining whether the money was well spent is a lot harder. So I'm going to go maybe through a little bit more in detail how we started to craft the indicators on the littering issue. So the idea is, indicators are always tricky because there's a lot of variables, especially with biological data, but also with trash, because it depends a lot of whether the seed. The next one is trash in the runoff water. Our sewage or the runoff sewages go mainly straight to the Baltic Sea or into the streams and rivers. There is no, well, part of it goes through what is it called, the sewage system, but most are just basically pipes into the ocean or to the rivers. So we want to know how much trash is actually going on there. So we have 5 sites scattered across the city. And we're creating our Plast Life, which is a Finnish life project running for several years. They're creating an app for crowdsourcing the litter, or basically gathering data through mobile phones. And I hope we can pilot this in Helsinki during next year and hopefully gather some data from there as well. And the knowledge is in the heads of the local operators or the people working in the field. So mapping this data into a map is one of the top priorities as well. So hopefully all of these complement each other, and the end result might look something like this. So we get an idea where there are hotspots of litter, and maybe these might change, but we can also target the measures and our finite finances into where the problems are, because there's a lot of variation between the different areas in our city. And if we look at the time frame of 10 to 20 years, we can hopefully see a change as well, whether it's for good or for bad, but anyway, we're aware of it. So that's the idea of indicators, and these are some examples that we hopefully get some data from. And this is a work that is starting at the moment, so I don't have results yet, but hopefully within the next years we have some idea whether these were good ideas or not. So the second issue, I think we've covered the littering part quite well, and the idea is obviously to iterate the strategic action plan for the 26 to make it even better. But it doesn't address really the thing that is here, that it's more of a climate issue here in the Western world. So we have the small amount of leakage in nature. Obviously, people talk about this a lot because it's something we can see. But if we compare to, for example, the Southeast Asian countries, I think it's manageable here in Helsinki. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. But if you look at the trash that goes into the system, then we have to think again. At the moment in Finland, 21% is recycled, and even this, it's not made into the same product, so it's basically all downcycled, which is the first issue. But here's the real issue. So 77% of it is still burned, or in fancy word, incinerated, or waste to energy, one term to put it. But the system is still flawed, and it's still very linear compared to what it could be. Luckily, only 2% is landfilled because it's basically illegal here in Finland at the moment. And if we look at the consumption of our population, Finland is doing great. I think we're globally in top 10. We're consuming 4 globes a year, if we think of it as country overshoot. The Western countries are not doing great either. And to combine this with just the plastic data, we're at the low end. Obviously, it's better that we incinerate it and take energy rather than put it in landfill, but there's a lot to improve. So this is one of those wicked issues along with climate change, and it's so multifaceted. It's hard to see even where to start it. We have different actions in different action plans in city of Helsinki, but bringing them all together, it's hard. And this is probably you've seen in different forms. So the first thing would be to reduce, but I would like to put it in a proportion. If there's only one to choose, definitely reduce, because all the other measures comes obsolete if we can reduce the actual amount of plastic. And how do we link it into the work within municipalities? I'm a firm believer of regulations, rules, and recommendations. So there's the 3 ways which I think are the most effective. And by accident, I think it's actually a good metaphor of the iceberg, because as long as we can take the plastic out of the system, it obviously takes the leakage to nature smaller as well. So this work is in baby shoes, as we say in Finnish, but there are several action plans already. We have the city strategy as a guiding document, and then there's the circular economy roadmap and several others that mention plastic in one form or another. So the first thing is for us to check what's going on already, or whether this issue, in what terms it is being addressed. But we're doing on the BALTIPLAST project, we're doing a research. It's running at the moment, is identifying the biggest sources within the municipality. We have quite good data quantity-wise from local waste operators. So we can get data from most of our buildings, how much plastic trash is being collected yearly. And also we're sending questionnaires and doing workshops on the quality of the trash or the single-use plastics, what is being used. So we have better knowledge where we can cut it and what is essential. Once again, the impact, super important to know what's going on. These kind of the quantity and quality will feed into the indicators to see where it's the most reliable and find some that can be followed throughout the years. Then the hard issue is to engage and find the relevant stakeholders to tackle this. This is a good picture of screaming into a megaphone, but if there's nobody listening, there's no impact at all. So we need to find and infiltrate the municipality people quite thoroughly. And the last point is creating a plastic strategy like Olof presented in the previous presentation. I think it needs to focus first on the biggest plastic streams, and I put there a graph. So where are the biggest streams quantity-wise, kilo-wise? What can be done actually? And we have to find the people that are willing to actually act in one way or another to reduce the single-use plastic. And there's the sweet spot in the middle where we should start. But like I said, this is being developed at the moment. So Västerås is light years ahead of us, and we're taking their action plans into account and learning the lessons from there and creating our own at the moment. So this takeaway message, if there's anything you can remember from my presentation afterwards, please remember this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rasmus. Very good reality check, really, with this presentation. Maybe one question still before maybe more questions come into the discussion. You very nicely and clearly explained the process or kind of what do you consider when you prepare an action plan on littering. Has the marine litter been somehow included into this topic, and like plastic marine litter, just out of maybe curiosity and from the point of view of comprehensiveness? Is it something that you think is relevant to include when you consider preparing plastic action plan, or are these two like very different topics because it's different stakeholders or something?
I think it's very, very relevant. I need to check the litter control action plan, whether there was plastic or the ocean plastic is addressed there. But we do have the Baltic Sea Challenge, which is its own action plan, kind of, that focuses on everything that starts from the shore towards the sea. So the plastic or marine plastic issue, I think its focus is in there. So we have a lot of, like I said, we have a lot of action plans going on here in the city of Helsinki, but I think the marine plastic is more on the agenda of the Baltic Sea Challenge, but definitely worth including in some form. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. We had in the meantime the question if the presentations would be available. Of course, they will be, together with the recording of the webinar. We will publish everything on our website, ubcsustainable.net. And I think you will also receive automatic emails about it. So definitely there will be content for you to review and share with your colleagues. And yes, let's move to the third Nordic example from today. We have an example about public events in Tallinn. Exactly, not only the capital of Estonia, but also EU Green Capital City. This year, we will hear about it from Liina Kanarbik, the Chief Specialist in Circular Economy Department in the city of Tallinn. So please, Liina, the floor is yours.
Well, hello, everyone. Am I seen and heard? Can you see the slides, yeah?
Yes, we see it and we hear you.
Good. So works well. So welcome everyone from me also. I'm Liina, working in the city of Tallinn in the Tallinn Strategic Management Office, which is one city authority, and circular department. Well, we have a fancy name, the department, right? But it mainly focuses on waste management, and of course, more and more we focus on the other circular economy topics as well. See, myself, I've been involved in the waste issues or waste world, let's say, for 15 years. It started in 2008 when we had our first cleanup day. So it all started in Estonia in 2008. So all those cleanup days that we have now all over the world, it once started in Estonia. So now I work in the city of Tallinn, and I will give you an overview about our public events and reusable dishes that are now compulsory here in Tallinn. But to move forward, so to give you a glimpse how big is Tallinn, so you can maybe identify yourself, like whether your municipality is around the same size or not. So we have around 450,000 people living here in Tallinn. And it's located, of course, next to the Baltic Sea. And it is quite green in some areas. Of course, not at the moment, because we have snow at the moment. So therefore, we have our Christmas market ready, starting from this 1st of December. So to move forward about waste management, not only in Tallinn, in all over EU, we have to focus on the upper layer, which means that we should prevent the waste, and one option to prevent it is, of course, if you don't buy it, like Rasmus said. So this is number one we should focus on. And what are the options or tasks that the city itself can do about it? So in Tallinn, we have our guidelines for organizing sustainable events. And it all started in 2022 when we had our draft guide with minimum requirements ready, and how to say, so there were many people who were involved in let's say setting those requirements, and we had a lot of meetings with our city institutions and event organizers, and we recommended the event organizers to test this guide at their events. So there were 4 events where we tested these guidelines. We had 2 sports competitions, we had 1 music festival and summer festival for the whole family. So we had a lot of meetings before the event, during the event, and after the event to see which are the requirements that are easy to follow and which are the ones that are not so easy to follow, which should be let's say changed or deleted and so on. So we had a lot of meetings. So we didn't just give out the guidelines and told all the organizations, so here it is, go and follow it and start organizing your event more sustainable way. So we had a lot of meetings. And after that, we have our own guidelines for organizing sustainable events. It's a mayor's directive, and all the city institutions must follow this guideline. So it applies to all conferences, seminars, receptions, different entertainment events that are held here in Tallinn. So what's involved? Actually, those topics are really like the basic ones, like the materials or catering, waste management, transport, communication. So this is something that are part of one event. For example, when it comes to materials, then all the decorations must be reusable or renting instead of buying, e-invitations, name card holders, like when you give souvenirs or gifts to the performance or somebody who's presenting something like. So we have to prefer local products and like, let's say, food or drinks, for example. So there's nothing new for most of the municipalities maybe, but it was something new for the city of Tallinn. When it comes to waste management, of course, all waste must be separately collected, and at the end of the event organizer must provide the proof or the documents, like where the trash was taken and how much was recycled. So when it comes to catering and water use, tap water should be used, and food and drinks may only be served in reusable containers. I will come back to it later. So small food packets are not allowed, and remaining food must be distributed to organizers or visitors, or should be donated to some partners. So this is something that's written on the invitations. For example, we have some city whatever events, then it's usually written there that bring your own container, food container. So if there's some edible food left, then all the food should be distributed to the visitors. So about transportation, of course, event venue should be accessible on foot or by bicycle or by public transport. This is also written on the invitation or whatever kind of, let's say, event we have. It's somehow written or communicated to the visitors. Then we have a special part dedicated to the energy, what kind of energy should be used. And of course, important role is on communication. So it should be announced everywhere, like how the event is organized. Like if we have the reusable food dishes there, or how the waste is sorted. And sometimes we are using the green ambassadors. Those are the special people who help people or the visitors to sort the waste and help them in that way. So these are like the really simple tasks that are in our guidelines. So when we move forward, then summer of not 69, summer of 2023, all public events in Tallinn are using only reusable dishes. So it all started actually in 2019 when Tallinn banned single-use plastic dishes and cutlery, and only compostable dishes were allowed. But of course, that didn't change the waste problem, because the amount of waste still remained the same. It was just we just changed one material into another one. Compostable dishes were still allowed, but we still saw a huge amount of waste. So it was to move forward, then we just thought that the year of green capital is a nice year to change the city regulation even harder. So no material single-use dishes or cutlery or cups are now allowed since 1st of June this year. And of course, this regulation didn't come easily. It wasn't like this, let's make the regulation and it's up to you how you manage it now. We had a lot of meetings with the service providers. We had a lot of meetings with the big events organizers. We were on the same table like tens of, or I don't know how many times, a lot of times. And when we noticed that the market is ready, we noticed that the service providers are big enough to serve like the mass events, and we saw that the event organizers are ready, then we thought it's a right step to move forward and put this regulation into force. So first you have to find out if the market and service providers and so on are ready for this change. And this regulation actually applied in this summer to all public events up to 30,000 visitors per day. So we actually had only 3 events this summer where we had more than 30,000 visitors. So we had our dance and song festival, which is a really big event. And then we had the Live Nations that organized the Depeche Mode and Weekend. So these are the 3 events that could use single-use dishes, but they still try to use reusables, because next year we have the same regulation in all Estonia. So starting from the 1st of January 2024, all public events in Estonia must use only reusables. So that's why those big festivals, they knew that the regulation is coming also from the government side. So therefore they had the chance to test reusables in mass events this summer. So it was a good experience for them to see how things are going. And next year, when it's already compulsory, they could make it even better, let's say. So when it comes to Depeche Mode and Weekend, they used reusable cups, not dishes or cutlery. They tried with the cups. And when it comes to the Dance and Song Festival, then only reusable cups, plates, and cutlery were used. So it was a huge mass event, and you can see there's a picture, a lot of visitors, and it was possible to serve all the foods and drinks in reusables. So if it's possible in that kind of event, then it's possible everywhere, right? So what kind of regulations we have? It's the city regulations, and we have two of them. One is like Tallinn waste management rules. So we put this regulation into that one because when we are using reusables, of course, that reduces the amount of waste generated. So it's very suitable in that regulation. And we have another regulation that says that how to organize public events in Tallinn. So we put this new law, let's say, into that regulation also. So it's written into regulations. So what else? I will give you maybe, or actually I don't, because my time is over, I think, because I do have more to say, because sustainable events is not only about reusable cups. There are more steps that could be taken, but maybe I leave it for next time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Liina, and leaving us with the suspense. Maybe one question before we go into the discussion. So there's a Christmas market coming up in Tallinn. Will that also be fully reusable and sustainable?
Well, not fully, but when it comes to serving food and drinks, then yes, they are using only reusable cups and dishes and cutlery. So when it comes to dishes and cups, you have to pay €2 deposit that is fully refundable. And when it comes to cutlery, that you don't have to pay extra deposit for that. It comes with the dish. So and if you want the lid on the cup, then you have to pay €1 extra and you get it fully packed. So this is something new for our Christmas market also. It starts at the end of this week, and I hope everything goes well. So it's kind of very international market. So I hope everybody behaves well.
Of course they will. And best of luck with the preparations. Thank you very much, Liina. Very comprehensive and very concrete guides. I think everyone was just taking notes on these. So thank you very much for this presentation. And now we have some time reserved for the discussion, so we can continue exchanging on these, but in another structured manner. So our discussion topic in principle is how to design a strategy and how to take decision makers on board. And what we wanted to tackle here was to discuss with all of our panelists maybe concrete advice and more concrete steps that would serve as an advice for our listeners today. And the first question that I would like to pose to everyone would be then how to prepare a strategy. So what would be the advice for the step-by-step process for other municipalities that wish to prepare a strategy to reduce plastic waste in the city? What would be your advice? Where to start? How to convince politicians? How to line up measures? So maybe we can start with the city, which actually has a strategy, and Olof could maybe exactly share, like, because for you mentioned that there was a special communication campaign with the politicians. So was it difficult to bring them on board, or were they instantly convinced that this is a challenge that should be tackled? How was it in Västerås?
Of course, it was quite hard in the beginning. Plastic is such a broad field to work in, and of course we have politicians that doesn't feel it's a problem at all. So you need a balance between communication, a little bit more soft approach, but also do your homework. Go home to the systems, look at the baselines, what sort of fact do you have for your own organization as well, and actually package the problem, and then, as always, find the right people, find the front runners, and work with them in the beginning before you make it broader.
Thank you. And maybe from Helsinki, Rasmus, maybe you have also some tips where to start in preparing, well, action plan, maybe in your case, and you mentioned also bringing relevant stakeholder on board. So how do you shout into the megaphone and ensure that there are people on the other side? How do you reach out to them?
I wasn't part of when they were creating the litter control action plan, but I've followed closely when they've created the Baltic Sea Challenge that I mentioned earlier. They are updating it for next year, and I think they have had a good approach of doing workshops. So basically half a day or full day workshops on the matter, and obviously the higher ups you can get into the meetings or workshops, they get engaged into the issue, and the more more closely they work in the issue, the more they understand, and it's easier to push the action plan itself through once it's finished. But I would say that the workshops have been a very good way, because it's always easier to when you meet the people and you can talk in person and contact them that wise and take them slowly aboard and not just put an action plan on their table for them to sign, because then it's a very fast backslash and nothing gets happened. Yeah.
Thank you. And then maybe also to Liina, the same question. Well, how to prepare a strategy, but also was, in your case, the status of the EU Green Capital an additional help in convincing people that this is the time to act now?
Yes, of course. When it comes to the Green Capital Year, we had a lot of green issues, and all the sustainability and circular economy was number one. So we had a lot of things done this year. So, but I really hope it's not. Let's say it's sustainable, and next year's will focus on circular economy as well. Not only this year, but of course we had a lot of. Let's say the budget was bigger, so therefore we could afford more things this year. But when it comes to strategies or regulations, then of course, like Rasmus says, you have to have people on board, not just give them a paper and here it is, sign it. If they are aware of what's written there or what's the focus, and also you have to be aware of what the EU is planning. So therefore, it's very easy to say that the EU is planning it anyways. So why should we wait? Let's do it faster, or those things. So you should be aware of what the EU does, and also your city. Not city, your country. What's the government planning to do? So these are the things that really help in that way.
Thank you very much. And Andrea, maybe you have some hints also from the project process. So we are now looking into different strategies and how to prepare them for different cities who are partners in the BALTIPLAST project. So how can project help with that? Or, yeah.
I would like to pick up Liina's idea, actually, what she mentioned regarding the EU strategies. I believe it's very important to be aligned with that, and keep also a focus not just on the EU strategies, but there are some sustainable development goals to be achieved by 2030. So I think it's a very good exercise to identify common overlapping areas and start building the strategies around these actions, actually.
Thank you. Indeed, a very, very important context for all and for many. Yeah, well, now if we look into the second question that we had prepared for this small pickup discussion. So what to do to achieve the structural systemic change? Because cities have many different strategies in place, and we know that sometimes for different reasons implementation might be lagging. It might be because the measures were not selected correctly, or maybe there is some hindrance. So maybe you have some experiences, or maybe you just have conceptual thoughts. Maybe you never had any problems with your strategies. But maybe you know conceptually how to address it, how to prevent it. So if we talk about, for example, I don't know, lack of knowledge when preparing risk assessment for the action plan, how can you ensure in your municipality that the correct measures are selected for these strategies? Or how was it done in your cases that we talk about? Strategy in Västerås, action plan in Helsinki, and regulation in Tallinn. Maybe you have some also advice on this. Maybe we can start from the other direction now, maybe from Liina.
Well, as I said in my presentation also, then like in Tallinn case, we had a lot of stakeholders that were involved. So we didn't do it like in some department, only some how to say, some people just write something and tell others to do it. And it's like involving all the stakeholders. And of course, when the municipality is smaller, in case of Tallinn or other municipalities that are smaller, not so big cities, it's much easier. You know everybody, you know all the stakeholders, you know the government, you know the city authorities, you also know the service providers when it comes to reusable dishes, for example. So they were all involved at the same table. We all know each other, so it's very much easier to when you involve everybody and you take into account what they think, and this is that's the key to success in our case.
Thank you. So communication and cooperation. People that you maybe don't have in this circle are citizens. Maybe Rasmus, because you had also something about citizens in your presentation, maybe you could address it. How do you reach out to them in Helsinki? What are the best practices? Do you take them on board in decision making? How does it work?
I would say not directly. We don't. But as I was presenting at the first slide, they are very active on their own behalf. So they keep a lot of noise. It was a good way to incorporate it into the politician's mind, because it's an ongoing topic all the time. So it's easier for them to accept that we have to do something about it, because the people demand, and there is a issue that can be seen everywhere. But I think it's harder in the case of plastic within the system, because it's somewhat unseen and it's everywhere. So getting the political will into reducing plastic just because of the plastic itself is much harder. And yeah, there's no clear answer for me for that one, because we have to convince it on a different level. Whereas if the pressure comes from the voters, it's much easier.
Thank you. Well, it is quite a clear and concrete answer, actually. You need to be flexible to respond to different changing situations. So thank you very much for sharing. And Olof, maybe also the same question. And you have strategy in place. Does it come with concrete actions that you want to implement, or how was it outlined in that respect?
Yeah, the action plan, it's a gathering of concrete actions in a variety of fields. But I think, as Rasmus said as well, you need to work in both big and small. Don't forget the small symbolic gestures as well. I can't let them serve sandwiches with the plastic wrapping at the city board anymore. It wouldn't work. But I also need to look at a big waste management system within the municipality. So you actually need to have both big and small. And of course, all our cities has a lot of different decisions and actions plans. And if you don't have any personal resources that actually work with the plan and owns the plan, nothing is going to happen. You need to have all the structures. And also, don't forget soft measurements, both in the short run, but also in the long run. It's a truth with a sort of modification, but that's measured is done, and that's somehow true in many cases. It doesn't need to be good measurements always, but right measurements for taking the action plan forward.
Thank you very much. Yes, definitely. Indicators, measurements, and yeah, that's the only way to also just check on the progress. So yeah, definitely those should be incorporated. We still have time for maybe one last question for the discussion. And I would like in this to address the format of the project that we are working in. So BALTIPLAST project is the project funded by the Interreg Baltic Sea Region program. And this is definitely bringing an added value for the cities and for the experts in the region. And maybe you would have more personal feedback from your organizations. How does it come together in this constellation? How does this project help you to achieve the change? And maybe Andrea, you could reflect first on this as the lead partner of BALTIPLAST project. What does it bring to our community?
Yes. The first thing that would come to my mind is really the communication and all the expertise that we can leverage from our partners. I think this set of diverse consortium is really promoting the transnational exchange of information and also the cross-sectorial exchange, because we are not just universities who usually focus on innovation and research. We also have the very anchored into reality perspective from municipalities and NGOs. And through this project, one of the most important or the best thing what I can mention is the knowledge share about our best practices. So this is exactly what we started as first step in our project, just to share the information, spread the word about what we are doing good at the local level, and help others as well implement those good actions, good practices.
Thank you. And maybe also some feedback from the cities on this. What is the added value of this project, or any project, to be honest, for the city's development? And maybe we can start with Rasmus this time.
Yes, every project that gets approved by City of Helsinki has to advance or kind of advance the city strategy, which is a big document, and it definitely adds value because it is largely funded, and the things that we do on projects are things that we would do otherwise anyway. So it is usually, if it gets aligned with the city strategy, it is easy to push the project through because it adds value to the city. And we discussed this earlier, but it's also important to phrase the goals and the motivations differently. It's when we talk to the Interreg or the consortium, and when we talk to the city planners and the decision makers in the city. So there's definitely value in both, but we have to kind of address and phrase the advantages differently.
Thank you. And Liina, would you also have any feedback on this?
Oh yeah, like Andrea said, it's very nice to know what other cities are doing. So to get an overview what others have done or are planning, or what are the mistakes that we should not do. So this is number one, and of course all projects have some benefits, and that there are pilots that can be tested that usually we're not doing. Let's say. In my municipality, and maybe let's see, maybe those pilots is something that can expand somehow in the city. So this is those two are the main things that I would point out.
Thank you. And Olof, do you have anything to add, or everything is already said?
No, I think it's a great way to add starting gas to a lot of pilots and projects. And also, it's on a smaller level, it creates a good platform for the employees who actually work with the projects to see that they work in a broader context with other people from other cities. that's strengthened them when they came home to their own organization, where they can be somehow solo sometimes. So it actually created a platform that's benefits for us.
Thank you very much. This has been really both inspirational and visionary, I have to say. Very, very informational webinar, and I really hope that our listeners today also found it very useful, with very concrete guides and best practices, what to do, what not to do, what works and what doesn't. So very, very warm thank you for today for all of the speakers, for sharing your experiences and providing this perfectly concrete advices today. As I said earlier, all of the materials from today would be also available online. Hopefully within a week, we'll provide recording and the presentations that were presented today. So we are all in support of city administration's capacity development. So we will be very happy if you share it also with your colleagues, if you found it relevant. And also, please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any more questions. You can find our contacts from the host today on the website. You can see the link shared. And as another thing that I said today, so this is only one of the UBC Talks series. We will continue next year with more exciting topics coming into light. So stay tuned. You can follow us on ubc-sustainable.net, where we always advertise what we do for cities and with cities. And that's also the place where we advertise what is being done in the BALTIPLAST project. So you can also follow that, and you can also follow the project directly. So thank you once again, everyone, for participating, and have a very good day. Thank you, and bye.